Hi guys, this is Mr. Prashant, and today I'm sharing with you some concepts about some clarity over how to write the extended essay reflections. But before that, I hope you all are keeping safe with your families in this corona times. Maintain social distance, keep safe, stay fit, stay healthy. Now, going back to our reflections, I am reminded, guys, your first reflections are starting today, and it will be concluded. It should be concluded by 9 p.m. 22nd of May. So between today and 22nd of May, you need to complete your first reflection. It's a very small thing. But you need to have a meeting with your supervisor. The supervisor, based on certain questions, certain guiding questions, which I'll be sharing with you also in a separate document, will have a discussion with you. And based on that discussion, you'll write reflection to them and sent to your supervisor over mail. The supervisor may suggest some edits. Basically, they'll give you a feedback over it. And once you have the feedback, you do the corrections. You do what the supervisor is suggesting, and then you upload your first reflection on ManageBack EE worksheet under the planning and progress form. One is once you are uploading it there, make sure that you are choosing the date correctly and the year of your diploma program, which is year one. You'll get that option when you are uploading your first reflection. Make sure that you have your final reflection with you, because I want you to just cut, copy, and paste on the planning and progress form on the EE worksheet. I don't want you to type it, because once you have made a change, after 5 seconds or 10 seconds, the that sheet locks automatically. So once you have entered, then you cannot do any change on it. So it's super important that you have your final reflection. You just cut it and paste it there. Choose the correct date, the correct year of diploma program, and you're done with the first reflection. Now your criteria E, worth 6 marks out of 34, independent of extended essay. Very important. It's 18% of total marks. So this can actually push your grade by a level. So a C can become a B can become an a D can become a C, depending if you score good in your criteria E. It's completely independent of your extended essay, what you're writing there. So let's understand that what are the things which you need to keep in mind to write this extended essay reflection. This criteria E is called engagement, and it assesses the student's engagement with the research focus and the research process. Research focus and research process. Very important two terms. We'll understand them in more detail, because this is the focus which IB wants to see while on through your reflections. It will be applied by the examiner at the end of assessment of the essay, after considering the student's reflection on planning and progress form. Now you don't have to worry about this planning and progress form. Once you enter your reflection on ManageBack, all the three reflections along with your supervisor comment generate your RPPF forms automatically. Your job is to complete the reflection on ManageBack. Moving forward, before we start understanding everything, what I want is that you first read two sample reflections. This first one which I'm sharing with you is from history, and the second one is from language A. So I'm sharing all the three reflections with you on a subject. Reason being, this video is not only for first reflection, but also it's for the all the three reflections. Only the guiding questions for each reflection change. Otherwise, the process for all the three reflections is similar. So let's read the reflection for this particular extended essay. I want you to pause the video and read this first reflection for a history extended essay. I believe that you must have read it by now. And let's move towards the second reflection for the same extended essay. Please pause the video right now, read, and then we'll move forward. Good. I believe you are done with the second reflection. Let's move towards the third reflection now. Pause the video. Good. Now, what is your opinion about the reflections? Is it a good reflection or a bad reflection? Let's see what the examiners have to say about it. Not very impressive, as you can see. Examiner gave only 2 marks out of 6, and the comments are reflection on decision making and planning are mostly descriptive, narrative, and concerned with the procedural process. I would underline this procedural process, very important. It's not the procedure which IB is interested. We want to see your engagement with the research and the research focus and the research process. Extended essay is about research, not about procedures. Let's read the second reflections, which is from an extended essay on language A. Pause the video and go through it. Good. Second reflection now. Again, pause the video. Let's move towards the third reflection now. Pause the video. And now we are moving towards the examiner comments for this. Amazing reflection, 6 out of 6. Reflections on decision making are evaluative and consider action in response to challenges experienced in the research process. These reflections communicate a high degree of intellectual and personal engagement, demonstrating authenticity and intellectual initiative. Guys, pay attention to what this comment is conveying to you. Decision making, evaluation of them, challenges, and how did you overcome them, engagement, intellectually, personally. So these are the points and things which IB wants you to bring to focus when you're writing the reflection. Let's move forward. Now the criteria E has basically two strands associated with it, which we are discussing: research process, research focus. Now, first, you need to understand that how this criteria E is assessed. It is assessed only through reflections. You'll be expected to write 3 reflections. The supervisor report is added to the RPPF, which shed light on how well you have engaged with the two strands of this criteria. So basically, the supervisor authenticate your work. Very, very important. If you're not having a number of meeting with your supervisor and you are not following your supervisor, you're not getting guidance on your supervisor, then your supervisor cannot write that in the supervisory comment. They'll simply write my engagement with the student was very less, and that is not good for your extended essay. So make sure that you, to get that good comment from your supervisor, you have to be in touch with your supervisor continuously. Make sure, I believe you all understand now that 3 sessions are formal, for which you have to write reflections, but actually you meet more than those 3 sessions. You interact with the supervisor in much more higher frequency than these 3 sessions. The reflective sessions usually range from 10 to 20 minutes meetings of or longer session depending upon your supervisor and you and what exactly your plan is. These meetings are formal, they have to be recorded, the reflections are recorded, and these meetings will actually tell you a lot about how to frame your reflections. So it's important to have these meetings in a very conducive and good environment. Now let's understand the two strands. The first is engagement with process. The student has engaged in discussion with the supervisor in planning and progress of their research. The supervisor is aware of what is happening and it doesn't come to them as a surprise. The student is able to reflect, refine the research process and react to insight gained. Basically, your research question or your EE is a process. It's a long process. You don't do all the things correctly at the first go. So you meet with your supervisor, gain from the experience. They tell you something, you refine the process, you go back again, and all this is covered in your reflection. So it's engagement with your process. It's not that you're just following a bookish step, it's that you are taking advantage and you are reflecting on the process. The student is able to evaluate decision make throughout the research process. Some decisions may be good, some decisions may not be good, but the student should be able to evaluate that. Student is able to suggest improvement. I believe you understand that. And now, engagement with research focus. Is student engagement reflective? Is the student reflecting on the process, is the reflecting that I am losing focus on it, but I turned back, I turned the tide on. I was facing challenges, but I was able to overcome those challenges. I did this one, two, and three to overcome the challenges, and I just didn't give up. Those kind of things. If you face any issues, guys, it is important that you mention those issues, not hide those issues. If you have, even if you have changed your reflection between your first reflection and second reflection, if by any little chance that your EE get changes, or the process or the track on which you had thought of that I'll be doing this after the first reflection, your planning changes, it should be there on the second reflection. What all happened should be there. Even if you change the subject, we don't recommend you to change the first reflection. You should maintain with the first reflection, and the second reflection you mention, I changed the subject. All the challenges mentioned there, you are reflecting or why it happened, how did I overcome. Thus, the reflection gives an insight into student thinking, intellectual initiative, and creative approach on the thought and the research process. Examiners should get an idea what you were thinking, what initiative you took, how did you overcome the challenges. That's what important is. That is the main crux of this engagement, where you are not hiding away your things but sharing with the examiner. So what should a good reflection convey? It should convey two skills: your analytical skills and your conceptual understanding. What do you mean by analytical skills? This skill shows your ability to visualize, articulate, and solve both complex and uncomplicated problems by making decisions that are sensible and are given in the context of available information. You are able to make a plan for your extended essay. You are able to show a good extended essay which has a formal presentation. It flows, and it shows evidence that you tackled a good problem, complex problem, or even the smaller problems, and you took decisions sensible, and you made the good use of the information which was available to you. Remember, extended essay is done by students of year 11 and 12. We don't expect it to be a very university PhD level kind of information. So, to the given in the context of the available information, that line is very, very, very important. Pay attention to this. In the context of the available information. Okay, moving forward. Now, the conceptual understanding. Reflection should show that the student knows more than just facts and methods. Extended essay is about research, not just mere producing facts and writing, oh, this was my method and just do it. It should show me something in-depth research done. It should show me that the student has identified a problem and ultimately come up with a solution to it. Don't, and it's not just a mere fact. I would do a Google for it. Why do I do a research for it if I just require fact? Reflection should be able to show the ability to transfer their knowledge into new situation and apply it to new methods. Very important. If you're doing world studies, it should be able to show me that how the two subjects have been used to come up with the solution of this. If you're doing a single subject, how you have used the concept from that subject to identify solutions to the situations which have come up. Remember, superficial treatment is not good. You need to go to an in-depth knowledge. the three reflective sessions are there. Let's look into the details of these three reflective sessions. The first reflective session is eh, you have met your supervisors earlier also, so this is a formal one. Hence, we are calling it first session or first reflective sessions, because only it's the first formal one for which you are recording. So you will outline your ideas regarding the topic in general, outline and finalize the research question you have in mind, initial background reading or research you have been conducted, possible approaches, and your initial thoughts about the answer to your research question. Remember, your second reflection happens after you have submitted the first draft. So your second reflective session is from the journey. Once you have identified the research question, you have identified the plan, you have identified the process, and ultimately when you present the written work. So this first reflective session is a process before that. Hmm? So possible approaches and your initial thoughts about the answer to your research question. Then comes your interim reflection section, or the second reflective session. Somewhere in the middle to later half of your e-calendar at Aga Khan Academy, we do it immediately after you submit the first draft. So immediately you submit the first draft, then which is on the first Friday when the school reopens, hopefully in August, and then next 2 weeks will be for the second reflective sessions. So the journal expectation is that you are able to present to your supervisor a more refined research question, discuss your essay on the basis of draft you must have written at that time. So it's your first draft which is submitted, and definitely there will be much improvement between the first draft and the final one. But till that end, whatever you have written is what discussed in the second reflective sessions, where you comment on the challenges encountered and what solutions you have attempted. Because right now you are on the planning stage. Now, after this reflective session, you'll move on the writing stage, and you will face challenges, and then we'll see. And that has to be recorded. Then we move towards the final reflective session, final reflection sessions. This will be the end of extended essay journey. You'll submit your final draft. The moment you submit your final draft, your time period will start. So the deadline of submission of final draft will be somewhere in September. Yeah, somewhere in September. And immediately you submit it, then you'll get next 2 weeks to conduct the final reflective session. This session is the last time you will be meeting your supervisor, as it is intended to be the closing interview. This session takes place after the EE is uploaded for assessment, so your supervisor have read your work. However, there will be not even a full stop change on the draft after this session. So the EE document is completed. Now we are working on the final reflection. It is an opportunity to offer your final reflection on the process, discuss any achievement and challenges overcome, while also sharing any aspect that contribute to the completion of the essay but are not immediately apparent within. Hmm. So this is an area where you bring out the challenges or certain things which you were not able to cover in the final draft, final document, but you think that it was important for the examiner to know. So this is an area where you bring it out. What you do in the final this final interview, you write the reflection, your comment, and your supervisor is also heavily influenced by what you say in the final reflection. So it should be a good one. Okay, some do's and don'ts. Please just don't describe what you have done. You saw what history, that's the student who wrote that history reflection or did. Simply, I did this, I did not do this, I did this, you lose mark over it. It's not about where you are telling me what you did. It's about a reflection. Not, I am not interested in your procedure, I'm interested in your reflection. So don't just describe what you have done. Instead, let the examiner understand your thinking process. Reflect on the decision you have made. What decisions were hard to make, what or made poorly so far, and how you have dealt with this. some decisions, whether I should go for a source or not, whether I should do this or not. Hard decisions. Some decisions were poor. Maybe you realize after that that probably I could have done in some other way, but the E is done. But reflection. Have you found it hard or easy to make a good research decision, good research question? Discuss something you could have done differently and better, and be yourself. We want this to be written in your own words and not in some academic jargon. What I am trying to say is keep it simple. Second, don't make it seem like you have only picked the easy to get information. You typed on Google the first website open and you pick the data from it. It should not be there. It is a research. A research involves some commitment from your side. Show that commitment. That's why it's important to have more than one different kind of sources. If you have four different kind of sources, five different kind of sources, different kind, I'm not saying the list. So you list 20 websites saying I have 20 different sources. No, it's one kind of source. It's one website. Okay, 20 websites, but all websites. So we need to have a range of different kind of sources to be used, which shows that the student has genuinely involved themselves in a research process. Shows that you have been careful about choosing your research and haven't just used whatever comes up first in Google. Shows us that you have taken time to think creatively about what kind of information will be required to answer a question, and then that you have taken the time to try to find this exact information. I'm drinking a sip of water. I'm speaking for quite too long. Now, reflect on your planning so far. Have you underplanned or overplanned, or not planned for the right aspect of your work so far? Have you found it hard or easy to plan your work? What setbacks have you faced in your planning and how have you dealt with these? What would you do differently in your planning next time you do research like this? However, these questions are the questions which you are seeing in your screen right now are mostly in your second and third reflections. Don't make it seem like you are mindlessly just doing what your teacher is telling you to do. Remember that history week reflection. You have to show us that you have taken the lead. We as supervisor are there to help you, to guide you, not work for you. Show us that you see this research as interesting and important in a genuine way. What sub questions you have been asking yourself as you did the research? These would be questions that would help your answers to your main research questions. All the evidence should come up. What do you find interesting about this topic? Why you have taken up this topic at all? First reflection. Don't try to hide your mistakes. Instead, tell us about some of your mistakes and what you have learned from them. We love this because it shows that you are becoming a person who doesn't need a teacher to improve. You can notice your own mistake and learn from it. Reflection. What have you learned about yourself already as a result of doing this work? Have you found managing your time very difficult? Have you find gathering resources very difficult? What did you do? What are your takeaways from the reflection? What has proven more difficult than you expected, and how have you dealt with it? What are your takeaways from this whole process? Have you evolved as a person, as a student, as an academician? Did you get some lifelong learning? Those are the things which the examiners like to know about you. So don't try to hide your mistakes. Highlight them, and it's important that you also show to the examiner what have you learned from that mistakes. Highlighting a mistake without showing your learning is of no use. Don't worry about making it seem too academic. It is an academic document. Hmm? So, however, we don't want that your focus is just on presentation. It has to be a formal presentation, but your focus should not be just on it. Be comfortable explaining your journey in your natural voice. As you'll see in the rubric below, the IB is hoping the friction can help you demonstrate the authenticity of your work by explaining it in a student voice. I just show it to you. These are few tips which I have picked up from your extended essay guide. It says you can reflect on the approaches and strategies you have chosen and how well have these have gone. It says that the approaches of learning ATL skills that you have developed through the e-research and how you have developed as a learner. Have you developed your thinking skills, communication skills, social skills, self-management skills, or research skills? You can add this in your third reflection, even sometimes in second reflection, at how you have improved on any of these skills or have used on these skills, and that is considered very good by the examiners. How your conceptual understanding have developed or changed as a result of your research. For example, have you learned how to apply course ideas in a new context? Important. Have you moved ahead from your class learning, from what you are learning in the subject? Explain some setback you faced in your research and how you overcome them. Share some questions that emerged as a result of your research. What would you do differently if you were to start this research again? Mention all these things. Now, this is the criteria. This 5 to 6 is the top mark band, and you should be reading it carefully. This criterion assesses the student engagement with their research focus and research process. I have already shared this first paragraph with you, and but what I am interested in this is this that you read that what exactly the rubric says. It says reflection on decision making and planning are evaluated. You have done the evaluation and include reference to students' capacity to consider action and ideas in response to challenges experienced in the research process. The second point is these reflections communicate a high degree of intellectual and personal engagement with the research focus and process of research, demonstrating authenticity, intellectual initiative, and a creative approach in the student voice. In the student voice, make it normal, make it seem your work. Don't make it so complex that the examiner thinks that you have just copied it from somewhere. There's a certain word limit. Why? Because as you can see, the reflection is of total 500 words. 500 words for all the three reflections. So at Aga Khan Academy, we have divided these we have given limit for these. So the first reflection should not be more than 120 words. Please make a note of it. You should not spend more than that. The second reflection should not be more than 140 words, and the third and the final reflection should not be more than 240 words. This has been keeping in mind that as you move, you in the journey, you have more things to write. But overall, the word limit is 500 words. Keep this in mind. This is some keywords which you can check for the good reflection and bad reflection. A good reflection should be meaningful, individual, ongoing, and episodic, formative, corrective, uncomfortable, productive, social, challenging. It should be uncomfortable for you because you are identifying your mistakes. Not an easy task. Whereas a poor reflection is purely descriptive, just complaining, I was not able to do this, my supervisor didn't help me, I couldn't find resources, my source ran away, criticizing, boring, linear or static, politically correct, tick box, hours counting a single task. You are just trying to have a checklist and you're meeting, okay, done, done, done. That tick box kind of approach is usually a very poor reflection. This is a checklist for student reflection. There are some do's and don'ts. I believe we have covered everything. Ensure you attend the three compulsory reflections with your session, with your supervisor. Record your reflection on RPPF as soon as possible, otherwise you'll forget the ideas. So you have to meet the deadlines. Make sure that you have written your reflection. First reflection is just 120 words, so you make sure that you have written it well on time. Send it to your supervisor for the feedback, and you are not trying to rush to the supervisor at the last moment so that the supervisor is not able to give you a feedback on time, and then you're writing to me. So extension should not happen. Hmm? Initiate check-in meetings. Focus your reflection on conceptual understanding, decision making, engagement with data, research process, time management, methodology, appropriateness of source, success, and challenges. Discuss setbacks. and any shift in direction. Shift in direction usually comes that if you between the first and the second you change your extended essay subject uh, or your research question, something like that. Don't settle for a research question or topic without thinking carefully. You make any amendments to the RPPF once your supervisor has signed and dated the form. Once you have entered a full stop on the space provided on ManageBack, remember it locks after 5 or 10 seconds. Make sure you have your reflection ready. You just paste it. After that, you won't be able to do any changes. Be dishonest with your supervisor as they're there to help you and to authenticate your work. View challenges and setback as a reason to not reflect well. Instead, see these as learning opportunities. Leave it up to your supervisor to chase and motivate you to complete your reflection. This I have stated a number of times earlier. EE is a journey which has to be traveled by you, not your supervisor. Do not exceed the 500 word limit for the three reflections on RPPF, and don't exceed the limit which we have set for you. If you go beyond 120 words, that means you have your word limit in the second or the third reflection is reduced, and those are reflections where you need to write more. So forget to sign your RPPF after completing each reflection session is not important because now we are generating it electronically. This is something about supervisor, what they can do and what they should not be doing. And it's important that you know that. You should be knowing that your supervisor has to ensure that you conduct three compulsory sessions. They authenticate your work through your comments. They discuss setbacks and any shift in thinking and direction methodology again through the comments. Use the online resources and teacher support material from IBO to facilitate the reflective sessions. I am providing all those information with you through the guiding sessions and through this presentation, through this video which you are looking at. The supervisor keep an eye on students' overall progress, regular check-ins, have formal meetings. They don't formulate the research question for the student. They don't make any changes to RPPF once you have signed, once you have entered. Once you have entered your reflection on RPPF, it's final. They don't give their own opinion about the quality of the source. You are the one who have to identify whether that's a good quality source or not. They don't tell the students what to write in RPPF, but do guide them with their reflections. They don't correct the student work and tell the student what is wrong. Instead, they help the student to identify and reflect on issues. They don't allow students to submit multiple drafts, and this is not academically honest. And these are the work which I have used to prepare these presentations. I hope this clarifies all your doubts about writing reflections. If you still have something, you know how to reach me. You all should be having my email ID. Email ID is the best way. I may or may not be very frequent on WhatsApp, but email I'm more frequent. My email ID is prashant.pandey, Prashant dot Pandey, Pandey at the rate agakanacademies.com, .org, sorry. And you have any issues, your first point of contact should be your supervisor. If they are not able to identify or help you, then you should approach me. And I do keep a check on your progress and everything, but through your supervisors. So it's the supervisor who should be aware of what all is happening with your extended essay. So this is it. Stay safe, write the reflections. Remember the deadlines, they are on ManageBack. Bye bye.